So, on this special day, first Friday of this Lent 2024, I'm going to share the first and the second stations of the Way of the Cross. And how did I contemplate those Way of the Cross? And then what are the things that we need to make sure to check on you. So, just to give you a simple introduction about the Way of the Cross, if you don't know what it is, this is we call the Stations of the Cross. It's actually a devotional practice that originated in Catholic Church, but it's also observed in many other Christian practices. The devotion is typically done during the Lent, particularly on Fridays, and especially on Good Friday. Everyone will go through that feel and then how Jesus did that big passion for the whole world. So the Christianity actually commemorate the crucifixion and the death of Jesus on Good Friday, and then we call Good Friday because he took away all the sins from the humanity. So that's why the human world, the human mind or human body feel that power of his saving power. So that's why we all call this as a Good Friday. And then why 14 stations? The station is actually going to depict the stories happened on that great suffering. Some people usually take 15 station looking at the last one as Jesus' resurrection, and then we are going to part of that life, but we usually end up in 14th station where Mother Mary is carrying her own son's body. That's where Catholic Church usually finish the stations. But why we need to practice this stations of the cross? So when I reflected that last year, that's what I was going through. Practice of stations of the cross always help us to connect our struggles and sufferings and the hope that we will get from Jesus' suffering. Because when he suffered a lot for the human world, he was going through alone. All his 12 disciples actually gone out of his, his sides, and some were following him from far away from him, but one always was close to him, denied Jesus 3 times. He was crying, and then he was not in the picture on the way to this crucifixion. The disciple who loved the most was there at the end of the journey, and we know that Jesus handed over his own mother to that disciple. There were many different ladies, women were following and crying. We were seeing different people having different impression on Jesus on this crucifixion happened during that time. But I encourage everyone to take the way of the cross into our own life, and each and every stations is linking to our own life. But we need to find out or contemplate which part of my life is affected, or which part of my life is really need a thorough review after contemplating the stations of the cross. This 14 station are really linked to our own life, giving us many different encouragement, many different lessons, and I would say many different resolutions. So we are still in the second month of the year, and it's great start that this Way of the Cross or this Lenten season is giving us an opportunity to put up our resolutions into a higher end, giving them a bit more better mindset rather than physical mindset. There's more of like a spirituality joining into that journey. So that's where the power of Way of the Cross. That's why the institutions like churches or the groups are inviting everyone to practice or reflect what happened to Jesus and how he gone through that sufferings. That will help us to find out better ways of our life, isn't it? Yes. So I invite everyone to think your own personal life rather than hearing. So just connect. These are the things how we can connect this one into our life. So it's more of like a practice. In the olden days, they usually go to Jerusalem and then retraces the steps of Jesus. That's what in the early days of Christian people used to do, and that's how they go to different places what happened in that big day, and then help themselves to reflect, yes, we were also part of this big group that allow Jesus to go to the cross, allow Pilate to do the different verdict, and allow all these people to do this cruel mindset on this pure holy person, and to find out, yes, this is a death that Jesus was ready to accept for the humankind. That means if in this world it's only just me, even then Jesus was ready to go through these sufferings because he loved us that much. We know that scientifically it is proven that if a person was suffered like Jesus, he couldn't, like, any human person can't really go through this hard time the way that they persecuted him. We all know that the death on the cross is not an easy death. They usually force them to die without, not having the ability to breathe, because if they put their two hands on two sides of the cross, the body can't really take the breathing, because we need to have a bit of like a push to go and up and down. So usually if you crucify anyone, they may stay there for many hours before they die. And that's the reason why they usually kick their legs, so they don't really breathe heavily, and then they will die slowly. It's a real slow death. That's the big punishment that they usually give during that time. And then we know the story that because Jesus was taken the day before and going through the whole way, had different falls and then had different punishments on the way. And that's why he couldn't even stay on the cross for more than 3 hours. So you imagine how much harsh the soldiers were, how much harsh all these people were. And this healthy man, 33-year-old healthy man, couldn't survive, couldn't breathe. So the main things that coming to my mind looking at the Jesus in the cross, that the power of suffering for a cause. That's what we need to know. Are we suffering for a cause? I would really love to invite you to the first and second stations, and then just to give you a background of this one, it started the way of the cross didn't have that 14 stations till 18th century. Prior to that time, it's different to different people depending upon the region, but from 18th onwards, it's eventually standardized and settled into that 14 stations. These events included Jesus' condemnation to death, his carrying the cross, his falls, his meeting with his mother, and there was another lady as well. I love that station. I will explain when we come over there. And then we have that one station about the Simon of Cyrene and his crucifixion and burial. So those are the different themes that we contemplate during this 14 stations. This is really a faithful meditation for us, going through the passion of Jesus Christ and the death, and then how the other people are going through. And the station of the cross is a transformative practice in the Lent. So that's what the other thing that we need to experience. It's not just we hearing it, but we practicing, and it will transform your mind and your body. So just get that feel, take that into your heart. This 14th station help us to grow in compassion and mercy. Help us to think, oh my goodness, he did this. Being a human, why can't I do at least a tiny part in my own life? I'm not going to be on the cross, but as in go through in the life, I will have many crosses. And why should I have to exaggerate those ones? Why can't I go through that suffering and accept that suffering? At least some tiny bit of that sufferings. And the other thing I mentioned before, find out the struggles as the place to get a bit more hope. So if we are going through the struggle, get some hope and strengthening our relationship with God. We know that life is not easy. Life is not always fancy. Life is not always smiling. It is tough. But if we have that great relationship with God, that will be better. So this is the 4 different fruits of contemplating the stations of the cross. It is not a mandatory practice in any Catholic church, but we highly recommend to practice that this during the Lent at least, so that we can practice compassion in our life. And as you all know, fasting, prayer, almsgiving are the main activities that we usually do in the way of the cross days. That means on Fridays, especially during the Lent. But if we do this as a practice on Fridays, we are helping our body as well to experience that power, that suffering that's going through the different one. So the first station, what is the first station? That's I'm actually going through the first station. We all know what happened on the first station. So it's actually 2 people are there in the first stations. The main points we need to remember: in the first station you have 2 kings. Yes, one is the king in the current world, the other one is the king of that heavenly kingdom. So there were 2 kings and having the different conversations with Pilate and Jesus. So Pilate was asking different things. Are you the king? And then Jesus was silent. And then Pilate was saying, why you are so silent and arrogant? I have the power to kill you or leave you free. That time Jesus is enforcing or reinforcing that you already told that I am a king. I am the king. So even though he was very gentle, but he is very assertive, and then telling that yes, I am a king, but I have to go through this. So I don't want to talk too much. So Jesus is showing here, if you are in a leadership area, silence is also a powerful tool that he can use to communicate. That's what Jesus mentioned here. And it's clearly saying that the political and social powers are there in this life, in our life. And at the same time, if you go through that time of Jesus, same thing happened. It's that political power really influenced for this decision to crucify Jesus. And there was no real people to argue and then rescue Jesus. There were people crying behind the scene and helplessly running around the scene, behind the scene, but there was nobody to go and talk and get the real decision making happen between the evil and between the good. There was no people there to stand by Jesus. What happened? Pilate was asking, do you need this Jesus or another Jesus? So that's how Barabbas, his name was also Jesus Barabbas and Jesus. So there was like Pilate was telling, you need Jesus, or do you need this Barabbas, or do you need this Jesus? But everyone was telling that free the other person and crucify Jesus. Just think how many times we were in that crowd to crucify many innocent people. How many times in silence we crucified other people. How many times, even though we knew the truth, and then we didn't tell that truth, and that's why many people got impacted. How many times you were really silent when you saw many unlawful things were happening in and around your situations. How many times you said yes to all these wrong happenings happen in and around our world. How many times you voted wrongly to be in a safe place. How many times you didn't raise your voice to show that the things are happening is not right in your family, in your personal life, in your workplace, and in your community. How many times you were crucifying Jesus, the people who were innocent, only because of your silence. I will be really contemplating on that silence of the people who loved and enjoy all the good things from Jesus and not even did a tiny thing to save Jesus Christ. I feel in our life that's what's happening, right? We think, yes, this is the world full of political things, diplomatic way of discussions, and all different way of bribery. I can't really do anything because I'm just one single person, and it's better be silent. That is not right. If you have a little candle, that candle can light up the world around that candle. So you have to raise your voice if you see something wrong, because it's your right, and it is the right thing that you should be doing as a human being. Otherwise, we will be crucifying innocent people in many different ways. Just think in your life, your own life, how many innocent people got crucified because of your silence. That's the only area that I am encouraging you to reflect on, this first station that Jesus condemned to death by Pilate, because there was no one at Jesus' place or Jesus' side to talk for him or raise voice for him. It's only because all the people who enjoyed the benefits were silent. Are you silent? Am I silent? That's what the reflection I want you to do on the first place, first station of the way of the cross. Going to the second station, Jesus carrying the cross to Calvary. I was just thinking about Jesus in that cross. Many different stories, many different pictures coming to our mind. The size of the cross, the shape of the cross, and the weight of the cross, and the Jesus, how he was going through, how was his body, how was his real suffering. All different pictures and images are coming through when we hear that Jesus carrying the cross to Calvary. And we all know that Calvary is a place not in the city, it's a bit away from the city. That's actually a crossover of the road, so that all the people moving from one city to another city will see this place, and everyone can see this particular person hanging in there, and that's the reason why they taking Jesus into that place. And even though it's not that big, like long journey, the journey was full of sufferings. Usually people want to hang the people on the cross, so they usually ask other people to carry. But in here, Jesus is carrying the cross, but because of the suffering, the punishments that they already given to Jesus, they doubted that he may die before crucifying him. And that's why they couldn't really, ask him or force him to carry for the whole journey that you can see in other stations, right? But just think about the first time that he is going to carry the cross. Think about his mindset. He is a God and he can do any miracles. He's the one multiplied bread and fish. He did the miracles of, calling people from dead, walked over the water, gave the sight to the people, and he is the king. There will be multitude of angels will come and rescue his cross or rescue this time. But as a human coming back to that humble place to be a human, he is picking up the heavy cross. What is that cross? Is that the wooden cross that we think that he is carrying? Not at all. That is the cross of all different things that we are carrying in our mind, in our brain, in our heart, like a proud mindset. All those different mentalities of our life, all the sinful nature, all the arrogant behavior that we're doing, all the different mindset that you are making other people upset, all different things. Just take everything out. I would really love to think about the first station. We were silent, and a good person, a holy person got crucified or got convicted to be a sinner. But the same people using their words, using their thoughts to create the big crosses. How many times with our words, our talk, that we ruined other people's reputation? And rather than helping them, encouraging them with the words, how many times we discouraged them, gave them discomfort, gave them hard time, took them down, sometimes even to the point of their own death, taking all the self-respect, self-worth to the ground. Just think about all the personal experiences that we had from other people because the verbal abuse took us down. Think about all the time we intentionally or unintentionally used our words to discourage other people. I will take only that as this big cross that Jesus is carrying. For this week, I would prefer to take only our words. So first time, in the first station, we didn't talk, and that was a problem. At the second station, we were talking, and that was the cross. Just think how we can utilize our words to save people rather than taking them down. How we can use our words to build them up rather than tear them down. That's what the real beauty of the first and the second station of the way of the cross of Jesus. So just contemplate about our words that we're using in our life. Try to build other people. Try to be silent if you think that that is going to kill other people. But raise your voice if it is the time that you need to show the right thing. Let us contemplate and pray to Jesus to get the grace, because without His grace, you can't really discern the right way. This is the special series on Fridays on this Lent 2024 to contemplate the way of the cross. This is your host, Ismi.